My beloved child, pause for a moment and breathe this in. This is not noise. This is not coincidence. This is a weighty moment, and your spirit already knows it. The title you opened is not dramatic language. It is a mirror. Jesus is very angry and his patience is gone. This is not a message for everyone. You have been warned before. Open this now or be fully accountable for what comes next. These words were not meant to frighten you, but to awaken you. There is a difference. Fear pushes you away. Truth pulls you closer. Listen carefully. What you are sensing is not rage like humans express. This is holy displeasure, righteous grief. Jesus is not pacing in heaven losing control. He is standing in authority, watching patterns repeat, watching mercy extended again and again, watching warnings ignored, watching hearts delay what they already know they must do. Patience has been stretched not because he is weak but because he is love. And love always warns before it corrects. You have been warned before. Not through one voice but many. Through quiet nudges you bright off. Through dreams you explained away. Through moments where your conscience spoke clearly, and you chose comfort over obedience. This message is not for everyone because not everyone hath been spoken to like you have. Some people are still being invited. You are being held accountable. There is a reason this reached you now. Timing is everything in the spirit. You didn't just click this. You responded to a pull. Something in you recognized urgency. Something in you knew this wasn't just another video. Jesus is addressing a cycle in your life, one that keeps repeating because you keep postponing the decision heaven has already highlighted. Hear this gently but firmly. Delayed obedience has consequences. Not punishment, alignment, consequences. When you stay where you were supposed to outgrow, pressure builds. When you ignore instructions meant to protect you, confusion increases. When Jesus warns, it is not to shame you. It is to spare you. This is where many misunderstand the anger of Jesus. His anger is not against you. It is against what is destroying you while you keep defending it. He is angry at the doors you keep reopening that he already helped you close. He is angry at the voices you keep listening to that pull you away from truth. He is angry at the way your calling is being diluted by distractions you've normalized. And yes, his patience with this pattern is ending. That doesn't mean grace is gone. It means grace is shifting form. Gentle whispers become clear instructions. Subtle nudges become unmistakable checks in your spirit. What you ignore now will not be ignored later, not because he is cruel, but because he is just. This is why this message feels heavy. Your spirit recognizes the seriousness. You are standing at a threshold moment. Continue as you are, or finally respond fully. Half obedience will no longer satisfy what God is doing next in your life. Partial surrender will not carry the weight of the assignment on you. Jesus is asking for alignment, not perfection. He is asking for honesty, not performance. He is asking you to stop pretending you don't know what he's been saying. Because you do. You've known for a while. Some of you are being confronted about relationships that were meant for a season, not a lifetime. Some of you about habits that started small and now quietly rule you. Some of you about callings you keep delaying because they require courage. And some of you about repentance you keep postponing because pride is louder than humility. This is not a mass message. This is surgical. And here is the mercy hidden inside the warning. You are still being spoken to. Silence would be far worse. Direction is proof of care. Accountability is evidence of value. Jesus corrects what he intends to keep. Do not harden your heart now. That is the real danger, not circumstances. not people, not outcomes. A hardened heart misses exits gone clearly marked. A softened heart can still change direction in time. You were warned before, yes, but you are also being invited again. Not to repeat the cycle, but to end it. This is the moment where seriousness meets surrender, where excuses expire, where maturity is required. Pay attention to what stirs in you as you hear this. The discomfort is not condemnation. It is conviction calling you higher. The urgency is not pressure. It is protection activating. Jesus is speaking clearly now. No more vague signals. No more mixed messages. You are accountable because you are capable. You are responsible because you are chosen. And this is only the beginning of what must be revealed. My chosen one, lean in now. This is where clarity sharpens. What Jesus is addressing is not random behavior. It is a pattern. Patterns reveal priorities, and priorities reveal who truly sits on the throne of your heart. You may say his name with your lips, but heaven listens to your choices. And right now, Jesus is confronting a quiet compromise you've been calling temporary. You told yourself, I'll change later. You said, God understands. You assumed silence meant approval. But silence was mercy giving you room to turn around. Now that room is narrowing. Not because Jesus wants to trap you, but because delay has begun to cost you more than you realize. Some of the heaviness you feel is not spiritual attack. It is spiritual resistance, because you are pushing against instruction. Let this settle. Jesus does not repeat himself endlessly. When a warning comes back stronger, it means the window is shifting. He already spoke gently. He already gave confirmations. He already sent people, scriptures, and inner checks. The repetition was love. The intensity now is seriousness. This message is touching areas you avoid thinking about late at night. The things you distract yourself from so you don't have to deal with them. Jesus sees it all, and his frustration is aimed at what is robbing you of freedom while pretending to give you control. Some of you are holding onto a version of life that feels safe but is slowly shrinking your faith. You know there is more, yet you keep choosing familiar ground. Jesus is not angry that you are afraid. He is grieved that fear has been making decisions meant for faith. Others of you are still entertaining voices that directly oppose what God told you. You keep seeking confirmation from people who benefit from your disobedience. That is not wisdom. That is avoidance. And heaven will no longer negotiate with excuses dressed as logic. Understand this clearly. Accountability does not begin after something happens. Accountability begins the moment truth is revealed. You are accountable now because revelation has reached you again. What comes next is determined by how you respond, not emotionally, but practically. Jesus is asking for action, not agreement. Agreement feels spiritual but changes nothing. Action proves alignment. Even small steps taken in obedience unlock massive shifts in the unseen. But refusing to move keeps doors closed that prayer alone cannot open. This is also why distractions have increased around you. Noise always rises when a decision moment arrives. Confusion is not coming from God. The clarity you need is already present. You've just been postponing it. Jesus is asking you to stop asking for more signs and start honoring the ones you already received. Let me speak to your heart gently here. You are not being rejected. You are being refined. This is not abandonment. This is preparation. But preparation requires cooperation. Grace does not remove responsibility. It empowers it. Some relationships will not survive your obedience. Some habits will resist being removed. Some comforts will protest loudly. That does not mean you are wrong. It means the shift is real. Resistance often confirms you are finally moving in the right direction. Now listen carefully. What you do in this season sets the tone for what follows. If you respond with humility, doors will open unexpectedly. If you delay again, pressure will increase, not to punish you, but to redirect you. Jesus is committed to your destiny, even if it means disrupting your comfort. This is why you cannot treat this message casually. You were warned before, yes, but this time you were also equipped. The strength you need is already available. The courage you think you lack will rise the moment you choose obedience over delay. If this message is reaching you deeply, don't keep it to yourself. Like this message so it reaches others who need the same wake-up call. Share it with someone who's been sensing the same urgency but hasn't found the words for it yet. Leave a comment, not for algorithms but as a declaration that you are listening. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now so you stay connected to what God is unfolding here. Join the community, become part of this mission, and stand with what heaven is saying in this hour. And before you drift away, pause right here. The next revelation connects everything you've been feeling but couldn't explain. Hold on. This is where understanding deepens, and what's coming next will shift how you see this entire warning. My beloved one, this is where truth stops circling and starts landing. What Jesus is revealing now is not about what you did wrong in the past. It is about what you keep postponing in the present. Heaven measures time differently. What you call soon, God often calls late. And what you've been delaying is not a small adjustment. It is a turning point. There is a line in the Spirit that you have been approaching again and again. Each time, mercy slowed you down before you crossed it. Each time, grace whispered, "Not yet. Turn back." But now Jesus is making something unmistakably clear. You cannot keep standing at the edge without choosing a direction. Neutral ground is disappearing. Some of you feel exposed right now, not because you are being shamed, but because light has entered places you kept dim on purpose. Jesus exposes to heal, not to humiliate. Yet exposure still feels uncomfortable because it removes control. And control has been the very thing keeping you stuck. Here's what many don't want to hear. Spiritual maturity is revealed by response, not emotion. Feeling convicted but changing nothing is not repentance. Feeling stirred but staying the same is not surrender. Jesus is not looking for tears alone. He is looking for alignment. You already know the instruction you've been resisting. It keeps coming back in different forms, different voices, same message, different moments, same conviction. That repetition is not coincidence. It is heaven confirming, again and again, that this matter is not optional. For some of you, this warning is about integrity. Private decisions that don't match public faith. Words that sound holy while actions stay comfortable. Jesus is not angry at your struggle. He is confronting the hypocrisy that slowly forms when conviction is ignored too long. For others, it is about calling. You were chosen to build, to speak, to lead, to create. But fear convinced you to stay hidden. Jesus is not pleased with bearing gifts. Not because he is demanding, but because he knows what others are missing when you stay silent. And for some, this is about repentance you've been postponing. Not because you don't believe, but because you don't want to let go. But listen carefully. Whatever you refuse to release will eventually demand more from you. Sin never stays small. Compromise never stays quiet. This is why the warning feels intense. You are being protected from something you cannot yet see. Jesus sees outcome. He sees roads ahead. He sees where this pattern leads if it continues unchecked. His frustration is rooted in foresight. Do not mistake this moment as rejection. It is actually proof that you still matter deeply. Heaven does not warn what it plans to discard. Correction is reserved for those with purpose. Now let me speak this plainly. What you choose after this message will shape the next season of your life. Not magically, but spiritually. Obedience opens doors prayer alone cannot force open. Disobedience delays answers you keep asking for. Jesus is asking for a response that costs you something, not because he needs payment, but because sacrifice breaks cycles. When you give up what feels comfortable for what is right, authority is restored in your life. This is the moment where excuses expire, where you stop blaming timing, people, or circumstances, where you stop saying one day and finally say yes. Not loudly, not publicly, but genuinely. And here is the hope woven into this warning. It is not too late, but it is no longer early. At balance is mercy. If this message is speaking directly to your spirit, don't brush it off. Engage it. Respond to it. Let heaven know you are listening. Type I choose alignment in the comments if this message has pierced your heart. Blessing code 6391 has just been released. This warning you just received is not meant to end with you. It is meant to travel. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, linked in the description, you become a carrier of light to souls who are still standing at the edge of decision. The Lord says, "What you release into my work, I will multiply back into your obedience." I am inviting you, personally, to help push this word where algorithms cannot reach. This is not a donation. This is a prophetic response to what you just heard. As you give, I speak open heavens, sharpened discernment, and accelerated alignment over your life. Obey now. Let your seed speak louder than your delay. My precious one, now the weight shifts from warning to direction. This is where many people feel relief, and others feel resistance. Both reactions reveal something important. When Jesus speaks next, he is not only pointing out what must stop, he is also revealing what must begin. Correction always carries instruction. You have been living with spiritual tension because you are straddling two responses. One part of you wants God fully. Another part wants control. That inner tug-of-war is exhausting, and Jesus sees how tired you are. But understand this. Exhaustion is not from doing too much. It is from being divided. The reason peace has felt distant is because peace does not coexist with hesitation. Peace follows decisions. Once alignment is chosen, clarity rushes in. Until then, everything feels foggy, heavy, and unstable. This is not an attack. It is an invitation to settle the matter. Jesus is asking you to stop negotiating with what he already settled. You keep revisiting decisions heaven already confirmed. You keep reopening questions God already answered. Each time you do, you delay momentum that was meant to carry you forward. Here is a truth you must hear clearly. Obedience simplifies life. Disobedience complicates it. Many of the problems you are praying against are actually symptoms of delay. When alignment is restored, confusion loses its grip. Some of you are waiting for emotions to catch up before you act. But obedience often comes before feelings follow. Faith is not moved by comfort. It is moved by conviction. Jesus is not asking you to feel ready. He is asking you to trust him enough to move anyway. Let me speak to the fear you haven't said out loud. You're afraid that if you obey fully, you'll lose something you can't replace. A relationship, a sense of identity, a version of yourself that feels familiar. But what you don't realize is that what you're clinging to is already fading. Jesus is not trying to take from you. He is trying to replace what is temporary with what lasts. This is why the warning earlier was firm. Not because destruction is inevitable, but because redirection is urgent. You are closer to breakthrough than you think, but hesitation is blocking the final step. One clear act of obedience can change the atmosphere around your entire life. Jesus is also addressing your trust. You trust Him with eternity, but struggle to trust Him with timing. You trust Him with salvation, but not with process. Yet the same God who secured your future is capable of guiding your next step. Do not underestimate the power of simple obedience. One conversation you've been avoiding, one habit you've been excusing, one boundary you've been afraid to set, one yes you've been delaying. These are not small things in the Spirit. They are keys. And here is the comfort hidden inside this moment. You are not walking into this alone. Grace does not leave when obedience begins. Grace activates. Strength rises when movement starts. Provision appears when direction is chosen. Jesus is watching to see not if you understand this message, but if you will honor it. Understanding without action changes nothing. But action, even imperfect, invites heaven to partner with you. Do not rush past this part. Let it settle. Ask yourself honestly where you have been delaying. Not with guilt, but with clarity. Because clarity leads to freedom. What comes next builds on this decision. And once this step is taken, things will begin to move faster than you expect. My dear one, now we move into what has been hidden beneath the surface. This is the layer most people never slow down enough to face. Jesus is not only correcting behavior, He's confronting motives. Because transformation does not last when only actions change. It lasts when the heart realigns. You have been asking God to change outcomes, but heaven has been working to change posture. Outcomes follow posture. When your inner stance shifts, external circumstances begin to obey. This is why some prayers felt unanswered, not ignored, but delayed until alignment could sustain the answer. Jesus is speaking to the part of you that wants God's promises without God's process. Attention creates frustration. But process is not punishment. It is preparation. Without it, blessing becomes burden. Influence becomes pressure. Open doors become overwhelming instead of empowering. Some of you are discovering that what once excited you now drains you. That is not failure, it is transition. The grace that carried you before is lifting because a new grace is available, but it requires a different level of obedience. You cannot enter the next season using yesterday's habits. Let this truth settle gently. Spiritual growth often feels like loss before it feels like gain. Old identities fall away. Old comforts lose their appeal. Old patterns stop working. This is not confusion. It is refinement. Jesus is pruning not because you are unfruitful, but because you are called to bear more. You may feel misunderstood right now, less connected to people who once felt close. A distance is not always rejection. It is sometimes realignment. Not everyone can walk with you into what God is building next. Some were assigned to your past, not your future. Jesus is also addressing your need for certainty. You want guarantees before you move. You want clarity before commitment. But faith does not work that way. Faith moves first. Clarity follows. Obedience unlocks information you cannot access while standing still. There is a quiet strength being formed in you right now. Not loud confidence, but settled assurance. The kind that doesn't need applause. The kind that doesn't panic under pressure. That strength comes from finally agreeing with God instead of debating Him. Hear this carefully. Resistance does not mean you are wrong. Often, It means you are close. When you decide to change, everything that benefited from the old version of you will protest. Do not interpret resistance as a sign to stop. Discern where it's coming from. Jesus is inviting you into simplicity. Less striving, less proving, less overthinking. Obedience simplifies what fear complicates. When you choose alignment, you no longer have to carry outcomes. God does. This is also a season of truth-telling, not to others first, but to yourself. Naming what is no longer healthy. Admitting where you've been avoiding growth. Confessing without excuses. Jesus meets honesty with healing every time. You are not behind. You are being repositioned. What felt like delay was actually development. And now, momentum is ready to return, but it requires your cooperation. Do not underestimate what God can do once you stop resisting what He's been asking. The next shift depends on what you do with this clarity. And clarity has now been given. My faithful one, now the focus turns inward, because transformation always does. Jesus is not rushing you, but He's inviting you to examine what have been shaping your decisions lately. Not what you say you believe, but what your actions reveal you trust. Because trust determines movement. You've been leaning on your own understanding more than you realize. Overthinking instead of obeying. Analyzing instead of acting. Jesus is not rebuking your intelligence. He is redirecting your dependence. There is a point where logic must bow to faith, or faith never gets the chance to lead. Some of you have been asking God for confirmation when what you really want is comfort. But comfort is not the goal. Alignment is. Jesus will confirm His word, yes, but He will not compete with your reluctance. When He speaks clearly, the next step is obedience and not negotiation. There is also something Jesus wants you to release emotionally. Old disappointments you still carry. Past failures you keep replaying. Regrets that quietly inform your choices. Those memories are not anchors of wisdom anymore. They have become weights. And you cannot run forward while holding on to what belongs behind you. Let me tell you something important. Jesus is not disappointed in you the way you fear. He is aware of your effort, your struggle, your desire to do right even when it's hard. But compassion does not cancel responsibility. Love does not remove instruction. He's calling you higher because He knows you can respond. This part of the journey requires courage, not dramatic courage, but quiet courage. The kind that chooses truth over habit. The kind that says no when it would be easier to say yes. The kind that obeys even when no one is watching. Some of you are learning that spiritual growth requires boundaries. Not walls, but wisdom. Saying no to what drains you. Stepping back from what distracts you. Guarding your time, your focus, your spirit. Jesus values what He's building in you too much to let everything have access. This is also where discipline becomes your ally. Not punishment, structure. Discipline protects what matters. It creates space for God to move freely. When your life has order, heaven finds room. If this message has been guiding you, now is the moment to respond outwardly as well. Like this video to stand in agreement with what's being spoken. Share it so others who are quietly struggling can hear what you're hearing. Leave a comment as a witness that you're not ignoring this call. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now so you stay connected to what God is unfolding here. Join the membership if you feel led. This is a growing community of people choosing alignment over delay. And before you step away, pause right here. What's coming next brings clarity to the resistance you've been feeling and reveals why this process matters more than you thought. Stay with me. This next shift is essential. I strong one. Now you are beginning to see why this moment feels different from all the others. This is not just another season of growth. It is a narrowing. Jesus often narrows the path before he expands the territory. Fewer options. Clearer direction. Less noise. More responsibility. You may have noticed that certain doors are closing without effort. Things you once chased are no longer responding. Conversations feel shorter. Opportunities feel fewer but heavier. This is not loss, it is focus. God is removing excess so you can carry what actually matters. Jesus is teaching you discernment in real time. Not everything good is God. Not every open door is yours. Discernment is not suspicion. It is alignment. And alignment requires listening beyond emotion. Some of you are being called into deeper spiritual authority, but authority demands submission first. You cannot command what you refuse to obey. This is why Jesus is so serious about obedience right now. He is preparing you to steward more, not survive less. You've been asking God to increase your influence, but influence without integrity collapses. So Jesus is strengthening your foundation. He is checking your motives, refining your reactions, teaching you to respond instead of react. This is also a season where your words matter more than before. Complaints carry weight. Declarations carry power. What you speak is shaping your environment. Jesus is inviting you to speak life even when circumstances tempt you to speak fear. Let me say this clearly. The pressure you feel is not meant to crush you. It is meant to concentrate you. Diamonds are not formed in comfort. Calling is clarified under weight. And you are handling more than you think because grace is active. Some of you are learning to trust God without explanations. That is advanced faith. Not blind faith, but surrendered faith. The kind that rests even when details are missing. Jesus is pleased with this posture, even if it feels uncomfortable. You are also being separated from comparison. Watching others move faster, seem ahead, appear more successful. But their timeline is not your measure. Your obedience is. God is not late with you. He is precise. This is where endurance is built. Not flashy endurance, but steady faithfulness. Showing up. Choosing right again. Staying soft when it would be easier to harden. Ye that see everyone seem to see it. Do not misread this season as restriction. It is refinement. The narrowing will not last forever, but the clarity it produces will. What comes next will confirm why this pruning was necessary. And when it does, you'll understand why Jesus could not allow you to remain where you were. My beloved child, now we arrive at the turning point, the place where understanding meets decision. Everything you have felt until now has been preparation for this moment. Jesus is not only shaping you, he is positioning you. And position determines what you are able to carry next. You may not see it yet, but something has already shifted in the unseen. The resistance that once confused you is beginning to loosen. A fog that clouded your discernment is lifting. This is what happens when obedience starts forming in the heart, even before it fully manifests in action. Jesus is reminding you that transformation is rarely loud. It often happens quietly, steadily, faithfully. While you were waiting for fireworks, heaven was building roots. While you were watching outcomes, God was strengthening character. And character is what sustains calling. Some of you are realizing that the old version of you cannot go where God is taking you. That realization feels bittersweet. There is gratitude for how far you've come, and grief for what must be released. Jesus honors both. Letting go does not dishonor the past. It honors growth. This is also where confidence begins to replace confusion. Not confidence in yourself, but confidence in God's leading. You may still feel uncertainty, but it no longer paralyzes you. Movement feels possible again. Hope feels grounded, not emotional. Jesus is asking you to trust the process even when progress looks slow. Seeds grow underground long before they break the surface. Just because others cannot see what's happening does not mean nothing is happening. Heaven sees consistency, not visibility. There is also restoration happening in how you see yourself. Shame is losing its voice. Condemnation is being silenced. You are learning to separate conviction from accusation. Jesus corrects with love. Accusation never comes from him. Some of you are stepping into a new level of spiritual sensitivity. You're noticing when something feels off. You're quicker to pause, slower to react. That is maturity forming. That is discernment growing. This part of the journey requires patience, but not passivity. Patience with God's timing, paired with obedience to God's instruction. When those two work together, momentum accelerates naturally. Jesus wants you to know this clearly. He has not forgotten you. He has been preparing you. And what's ahead requires exactly the refinement you've been walking through. If this message is resonating deeply, respond now, not out of emotion, but alignment. Type "I receive the shift" in the comments if this speaks to your spirit. Blessing code 8426 has just been activated. The shift you're experiencing is not meant to stay contained. It is meant to overflow. When you support this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal found in the description, you are sowing into a river that carries God's voice to hearts still waiting for direction. The Lord is saying, those who partner with my work in this hour will not miss their appointed time. I am calling you to respond prophetically, not passively. As you give, I release clarity, stability, and forward movement over your life. Move now. Let your obedience become part of someone else's breakthrough. My steady one, now you are entering a phase where consistency matters more than intensity. Jesus is drawing your attention away from moments and toward patterns. Because one emotional response does not change a life, but repeated obedience does. You may notice that the urgency feels quieter now. That does not mean the message has faded. It means it has settled. What once shook you is now asking to shape you. This is where many people drift, not because they disagree, but because discipline replaces excitement. And Jesus is watching who remains faithful when the fire becomes focus. This season is teaching you to walk, not rush. To choose daily alignment instead of grammatic declarations. To honor God in the small decisions that no one celebrates. Heaven values faithfulness long before fruit appears. Some of you are learning that spiritual growth feels ordinary most days. You pray. You obey. You resist temptation. You choose differently. And nothing spectacular seems to happen. Yet everything is changing. Roots are deepening. Stability is forming. And when the storms come, you will not collapse. Jesus is also refining your expectations. You wanted instant resolution. He is building lasting transformation. Instant relief feels good, but lasting freedom changes generations. And you are being prepared for impact beyond yourself. There is a temptation in this phase to look back, to wonder if the earlier urgency was exaggerated. That is where many lose ground. Do not reinterpret truth just because obedience feels repetitive. The same instruction still stands, even when emotions fluctuate. Some of you are experiencing quiet victories right now. Saying no without struggle. Walking away without regret. Choosing peace instead of proving a point. These are signs of maturity. Celebrate them, even if no one else sees them. Jesus is reminding you that faithfulness is cumulative. Every small yes adds weight to your authority. Every consistent choice strengthens your discernment. You are becoming someone who can be trusted with more, not because you are perfect, but because you are submitted. This is also where patience is tested. You've obeyed, but results seem delayed. Remember this: obedience does not always produce immediate outcomes, but it always produces eternal alignment. And alignment guarantees eventual fruit. You are closer than you think, not to an ending but to a release. What have been forming in private will soon require public responsibility, and the discipline you're learning now will sustain you then. Do not grow weary here. This is not the time to loosen focus. It is the time to remain steady, grounded, and attentive. Because what comes next will require the stability you're building now, and the next shift will make clear why this phase could not be skipped. Lie attentive, one. Now we approach a moment of reinforcement. Jesus knows that when clarity has settled and discipline has begun, weariness can try to creep in. Not dramatic doubt, but subtle fatigue. That is why this reminder comes now, not to push you, but to steady you. You are learning that obedience is not a single decision. It is a lifestyle, and lifestyles require reinforcement. Jesus is strengthening your resolve so you don't slowly drift back into old patterns once the urgency fades. What you've built so far is fragile only if neglected. Some of you are tempted to disengage quietly, not to rebel, just to relax your standards. To say, "I've done enough." But Jesus is calling you to finish what you started. Not in striving, but in faithfulness. Momentum is preserved by consistency, not pressure. This is also a season where community matters. Isolation weakens discernment. Shared faith strengthens endurance. You were not meant to walk this path alone, and Jesus often uses voices like this to keep you aligned when distractions rise. If this journey has been helping you, now is the time to engage more intentionally. Like this message so it continues reaching those who need clarity. Share it with someone who has been walking in hesitation. Leave a comment as a marker that you are still aligned. Subscribe so you remain connected as this message continues to unfold. And if you feel led, join the membership. Stand with this community as we move forward together. Before you step away, stay anchored here for a moment. The next revelation ties everything together and reveals the outcome of responding or resisting this call. Keep watching. This final stretch carries weight you don't want to miss. My resolved one, now we arrive at the place of outcome, not the end, but the unveiling. Jesus is showing you what all of this had been preparing you for. Warnings were not the destination. Alignment was. Refinement was not delay. It was design. You are beginning to notice a difference in how you respond to pressure. What once triggered anxiety now invites prayer. What once tempted you to react now causes you to pause. This is not accidental. This is evidence that something inside you has shifted permanently. Jesus is confirming that your obedience has not been wasted. Even when you saw no immediate change, heaven was recording every choice. Every moment you chose restraint over impulse. Every time you chose truth over comfort. These decisions accumulated authority you are about to need. Some of you are stepping into greater responsibility soon. Not necessarily visibility, but influence. People will begin to listen differently. Trust you more. Seek your counsel. And this is why Jesus insisted on integrity earlier, because influence without character damages both the carrier and the receiver. You may feel a quiet seriousness settling over you, not heaviness of weight, the weight of stewardship. The awareness that your life is not just about you anymore. That awareness is holy. It is the mark of maturity. Jesus is also healing how you see authority, not as control but as service, not as dominance but as responsibility. What he is entrusting to you will require humility more than confidence, and you have been prepared for that. Some doors will open soon that would have overwhelmed the old version of you. Now you are ready, not because you have all the answers, but because you are anchored. Storms may still come, but they will no longer knock you off course. Let me speak reassurance into your spirit. You did not miss your moment. You were refined for it. God's timing did not betray you. It protected you. And what unfolds next will make sense of every hard instruction you obeyed. This is also where gratitude deepens. Not shallow thankfulness, but reverence. You begin to thank God not only for blessings, but for boundaries. Not only for open doors, but for closed ones. Wisdom has taken root. Remain watchful here. Pride tries to enter quietly after growth. Jesus calls you to stay teachable, stay dependent, stay responsive. The posture that got you here is the posture that will keep you moving forward. And now, the final release is close. What remains is confirmation and a sealing of what hath been spoken. My beloved one, this is a sealing moment, but not a stopping point. What Jesus is doing here is confirming, not concluding. There is a difference. Confirmation strengthens what has already been planted so it can withstand what comes next. You are no longer standing where you were when this message began. Even if your surroundings look the same, your discernment is sharper, your spirit steadier, your resolve clearer. That is not imagination. That is transformation taking root. Jesus does not rush this process because what is being formed in you must last. His part is about ownership. Not guilt, not fear, but responsibility. You are now aware. You are now aligned. And awareness carries weight. You cannot unknow what you now know. That is not a burden. It is an honor. Heaven trusts you with truth. Some of you are sensing anticipation again, but this time it is grounded. Not emotional excitement, but readiness. You are no longer asking, when will God move? You are asking, how do I steward what He's already done? That question signals maturity. Jesus is reminding you to guard what has been given. Not aggressively, but attentively. Old patterns may try to reappear. Old voices may test your resolve. Do not panic. Discernment is now part of you. You will recognize misalignment faster than before. This is also where faith becomes quieter and stronger. You don't need constant reassurance. You move with vision. You obey without announcement. And kind of faith shifts environments. Let me speak clearly. What you carry now will impact others. Your choices will echo beyond you. That is why obedience mattered so much. And that is why Jesus addressed you firmly, because influence was always part of the assignment. You are stepping into a phase where God's instruction will come with greater precision. Stay sensitive. Stay humble. Stay responsive. The same voice that warned you will now guide you with clarity. Before this moment passes, respond, not casually, but intentionally. Type "I walk in obedience" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 9158 has now been released. What has been sealed in you is meant to flow through you. As you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or PayPal in the description, you are sowing into a work that carries God's voice to those still waiting for clarity. The Lord is declaring, "Those who uphold my word, I will uphold in their next season." I am speaking directly to you. This is a prophetic action, not a passive gesture. As you give, I release covering, discernment, and divine acceleration over your obedience. Move now. Seal this moment with action. My steadfast one. Now we move beyond sealing and into stewardship. This is where many assume the work is finished, but Jesus says this is where responsibility truly begins. What has been awakened in you must now be guarded, exercised, and lived out daily. Revelation without stewardship fades, but revelation protected by obedience multiplies. You are entering a phase where choices feel more intentional. You will notice that you cannot move casually anymore. Things that once felt neutral will now feel clearly right or clearly wrong. This is not restriction. It is discernment sharpening. Jesus is training your senses to recognize alignment quickly so you don't linger where you don't belong. Some of you will feel a new intolerance for spiritual noise, empty conversations, recycled distractions. Familiar cycles that once entertained you will now exhaust you. Do not fight this shift. This is your spirit maturing. You are being trained to value depth over stimulation. Jesus is also preparing you for resistance that comes after obedience. Not dramatic opposition, but subtle testing. Opportunities that look good but pull you off course. Invitations that appeal to your old identity. Moments where compromise whispers, just this once. This is where vigilance matters. Let me reassure you, you are not fragile. You are strengthened. You are not easily deceived now. What once confused you will now expose itself quickly. Trust what rises in your spirit. That pause you feel is wisdom. That check you sense is protection. This is also a season of consistency in the secret place. Not longer prayers, but truer ones. Not louder worship, but honest surrender. Jesus values your sincerity more than your performance. Stay real with Him. That authenticity keeps your heart soft. Some of you will begin to see fruit quietly appear. Small confirmations, subtle peace, renewed confidence in decisions. These are signs that alignment is holding. Do not rush to interpret everything. Simply remain faithful. Jesus is reminding you that obedience is maintained, not mastered. You don't graduate from surrender. You practice it daily, intentionally, with humility. And every day you choose it, your authority deepens. You may feel a new desire to protect your time, your focus, your energy. That is not selfishness. It is stewardship. What God is growing in you requires space to breathe. Do not look for applause in this phase. Often, the most powerful growth happens unseen. Heaven sees it, and heaven rewards faithfulness at the right time. Remain steady. Remain teachable. Remain obedient. What is unfolding now is setting the tone for everything that follows, and you are walking it well. My anchored one, now Jesus is teaching you how to remain steady when momentum begins to build. This phase is subtle, but it is critical. When growth becomes consistent, the temptation is to relax awareness. But Jesus is inviting you to deepen it, not with anxiety, but with attentiveness. You are learning how to carry peace without becoming passive. Peace is not the absence of movement. It is stability within movement. Jesus wants you to move forward without losing your center. This is how longevity is formed in the spirit. Some of you will notice that decisions now come with less inner conflict. That is not because life is simpler, but because alignment has reduced friction. When your will and God's will agree, resistance fades. That harmony is precious. Protect it. Jesus is also refining your reactions to success and progress. He does not want growth to make you independent of Him. Progress must deepen dependence, not replace it. Stay close. Stay listening. What brought you here must stay active to take you further. This is also a season of discernment around timing. Not every good idea needs immediate execution. Not every open door needs to be rushed through. Jesus is teaching you to move when he moves, not ahead of him, not behind him. Some relationships will begin to shift again, not dramatically, but naturally. Alignment attracts alignment. As you change, your environment responds. Do not force connections to remain the same. Allow God to reorder your surroundings with wisdom. Jesus is reminding you to remain grateful here. Gratitude guards humility. It keeps your heart soft and your spirit receptive. Thank him not only for progress, but for patience. Not only for clarity, but for correction. There may be moments where old doubts try to revisit you, questioning whether this path is sustainable. Let those thoughts pass. You are not building on emotion anymore, you are building on conviction. Conviction endures. You are also learning restraint, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Wisdom is not always loud. Sometimes it watches, prays, and waits. Jesus modeled this, and now he is forming it in you. Do not underestimate this phase. Stability is more powerful than speed. Consistency outlasts intensity. And faithfulness here will carry you into responsibilities you are not yet seeing. Remain grounded. Remain responsive. Remain aligned. What is being established now will support what God releases later, and it will be worth it. My unwavering one, now Jesus is teaching you endurance with vision. This is not about surviving seasons, it is about sustaining purpose. Many can respond to a warning. Fewer can remain faithful after alignment settles. And this is where you are now being shaped. You are discovering that obedience is no longer dramatic for you. It is normal. What once required effort now flows from conviction. This is growth. This is maturity. And heaven recognizes it even when people do not. Jesus is also adjusting how you measure progress. You are learning not to evaluate your life by speed or applause, but by faithfulness and fruit. Slow obedience that lasts is more powerful than fast movement that fades. You are building something that will remain. Some days may feel quiet, almost uneventful. Do not mistake that for stagnation. Quiet seasons strengthen foundations. They allow roots to go deeper so future growth does not collapse under pressure. Jesus often does his deepest work in silence. There is also a refining happening in how you handle responsibility. You are becoming more careful with what you say yes to, more aware of what drains you, more protective of what God has entrusted to you. This is stewardship maturing. Jesus is reminding you that not every test looks like hardship. Some tests look like opportunity. Favor without instruction can become distraction. That is why discernment remains essential. Ask before you act. Listen before you decide. You may notice a stronger pull toward purpose-driven living. Casual compromises no longer appeal to you. Time feels more valuable. Choices feel weightier. This is not pressure, it is clarity. And clarity brings peace, not fear. Some of you are being trained to lead by example rather than explanation. People will watch your consistency more than they listen to your words. Your life is becoming a message without announcement. Jesus is also strengthening your resilience. When setbacks come, they do not undo you. When challenges arise, they no longer shake your identity. You recover faster. You refocus quicker. This is evidence that alignment has taken root. Let me reassure you here, you are not missing anything by staying obedient. What God has for you cannot be stolen by patience. Delay does not cancel destiny when obedience remains active. Stay attentive in this phase. Not anxious, attentive. God is preparing you for another expansion, and endurance is the bridge. You are crossing it steadily, and what comes next will reveal why this endurance was necessary. My grounded one, now Jesus is inviting you into clarity with confidence. This phase is not loud, but it is decisive. You are no longer asking whether you should obey. You are asking how to obey well. That shift matters more than you realize. You may sense a deeper calm within you, not because everything is resolved, but because you trust the direction you're walking in. That trust did not appear overnight. It was built through every small decision you made when no one was watching. Jesus is also sharpening your discernment between urgency and importance. Not everything that feels urgent deserves your energy. He is teaching you to prioritize what aligns with purpose over what demands attention. This protects your peace and preserves your focus. Some of you are learning to release outcomes completely. You obey, and you let God handle results. That surrender frees you from pressure and prevents burnout. Obedience becomes lighter when control is released. This is also a season where your inner voice is quieter and clearer. You no longer wrestle with every decision. You recognize God's leading faster. The clarity is the fruit of consistency, not coincidence. Jesus is preparing you for moments where your faith will be tested quietly. No audience, no applause, just you, your conviction, and a choice. These moments matter deeply in the spirit. Heaven watches them closely. You are also becoming more secure in who you are. Comparison loses its grip. Approval feels less necessary. Your identity is rooted, not reactive. This stability allows God to trust you with influence without it changing you. Some doors will open naturally now, not forced, not rushed. When alignment is right, movement becomes effortless. Stay humble in open doors. Stay prayerful in opportunity. Jesus is reminding you to remain teachable. Growth does not end with maturity. It deepens through it. Stay curious. Stay listening. The voice that guided you here will continue to guide you forward. You are walking well. Do not doubt that. Even on days that feel ordinary, heaven sees steady faithfulness. Remain obedient. Remain anchored. What lies ahead will require exactly the stability you are building now. My enduring one. Now Jesus is revealing the quiet reward of faithfulness. Not the kind that arrives with noise or recognition, but the kind that settles deep within your spirit. You are becoming someone who can be trusted with weight, not just blessings but responsibility. You may notice that temptations feel weaker now, not because they disappeared, but because your values have strengthened. What once pulled at you no longer has the same grip. This is not self-control alone. It is transformation. Your desires are aligning with heaven's order. Jesus is also restoring confidence in your discernment. You second-guess less. You hesitate less. You still pray, but you no longer panic. That calm decision-making is evidence that wisdom has taken root. This is a phase where obedience becomes instinctive. You respond quickly when God nudges you. You pause when something feels off. You don't need long explanations anymore. That sensitivity is precious, protected. Some of you are entering a season where others will lean on your stability. Not because you have all the answers, but because your presence carries peace. You have become a safe place, not by force, but by faithfulness. Jesus is also cautioning you here. Stay dependent. Growth can quietly tempt independence. But the same intimacy that brought clarity must remain active. Do not outgrow prayer. Do not replace listening with assumption. There may be moments where progress feels slow again. Do not be discouraged. God often slows movement to strengthen structure. What is being built now is meant to last far beyond one season. You are also learning to celebrate small victories without losing hunger. Gratitude and hunger can coexist. Thankfulness keeps your heart soft. Hunger keeps you moving forward. This is not the end of the journey. It is the establishment of a rhythm. Obedience. Listening. Responding. Resting. Repeating. This rhythm will sustain you through what is coming. Remain faithful in the unseen. Remain obedient in the ordinary. Heaven honors consistency more than intensity. And as you continue walking this path, you will look back and realize the warning that once startled you became the foundation that steadied you. My beloved child, this is the final release, and it carries weight. Not because fear remains, but because responsibility has matured. Jesus is not speaking to awaken you anymore. He is speaking to commission you. What began as a warning has now become a charge. You are no longer standing at the edge of decision. You crossed it. Your yes may have been quiet, but heaven heard it clearly. And because you responded, you are now accountable not just for what you avoid, but for what you carry. Jesus wants you to understand this clearly. The anger you sensed at the beginning was never rejection. It was urgency wrapped in love. It was heaven refusing to let you drift into destruction silently. And because you listened, correction has turned into confirmation. From this point forward, you will notice something different. When you disobey, peace will withdraw quickly. When you obey, clarity will come rapidly. This is not pressure. It is intimacy. You are now walking closer, and closeness increases sensitivity. You have been trained through this message to recognize truth, to respond without delay, and to value obedience over comfort. The training was necessary because your life is meant to influence others whether you speak or not. People will learn from how you choose. Jesus is reminding you, do not return to old compromises. Not because you are forbidden, but because you are finished with them. You outgrew them. What once trapped you can no longer hold you unless you invite it back. This is the final warning and the final reassurance. Stay soft. Pride hardens slowly. Familiarity dulls reverence. Keep your heart teachable. Keep your spirit responsive. The same Jesus who corrected you will continue to guide you. If you remain willing, you are not dismissed. You are sent. And before this word seals completely, mark this moment intentionally. Type "I will not ignore God's voice" in the comments if you receive this charge. Blessing code 3017 has now been released. What you just walked through was not contend, it was calling. And this calling is meant to reach beyond you. When you release support through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal in the description, you are sowing into a voice that warns, aligns, and restores souls before it's too late. The Lord is declaring, those who help carry my warning will walk under my covering. I am speaking directly to you now. This is a moment of obedience, not convenience. As you give, I release protection, discernment, and divine reward over your life. Act now, partner with this mission, and let your obedience echo into eternity.